The NBA schedule is out, and we know a little more about what this Phoenix Suns season will look like on today's episode of Locked On Suns. The most interesting stretches of the season, how their national TV schedule and strength of schedule compares to the rest of the NBA. And Deandre Ayton just keeps doing it for the Bahamas. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And we're back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 6 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show, wherever you get your podcasts. Big thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on schedule release day. Maybe it's Friday for you, wherever you're finding the show. We appreciate you being with us each and every day. Starting next month, we're Monday, Wednesday, Friday here in August, but just search Locked On Suns wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Hit follow or subscribe. Get this show in your feed each and every day in the not too distant future. Become an everyday or get locked on to the Phoenix Suns. Aaron Edwards is joining us as he does every week. Aaron, we always joke that Thursdays give us a lot of news, and that happened again today, so very good timing because this is mid-August and there's not a lot going on. We do have Deandre Ayton to hit at the end, but let's start with the schedule, which rolled out on ESPN today, and then all the teams emailed right as the show is starting. So really not sure if that broadcast was needed. But regardless, let's just talk through the biggest kind of stretches, the things that have our mind, whether you and I go to games, obviously, probably me a little more than everyone else. But, you know, we all are circling the days we want to buy tickets and all that this time of year. So we'll just hit on what excites us, what intrigues us. And this might be a strange place to start because obviously the Suns host a game or they are on the road in San Francisco on opening night. They're hosting a game on Christmas, both big matchups with rivalries and different player beefs and whatever you want to point to. I am excited that we get to see Victor Wembanyama twice in the first 2 weeks of the season.
I literally tweeted that the second it dropped. I was like, we get Wemby the second week and we get him twice in a row. Like, that's going to be fun. Like, we're going to get into like just this team in general later, but I just think it's fun to be one of the first teams to get him and get him out here because that's going to sell out. Everybody's going to want to see that.
Are the Suns and Spurs going to have like a little bit of a thing again here if they get good? Because obviously they still play each other a lot and that history is not going anywhere. Everybody who was around for those 7 seconds or less days are still Suns fans if Robert Sarver didn't scare too many of them away. So it feels like we're headed there, and I'm actually kind of excited. I also think we'll get to Ayton, like I said, but it's kind of a good test for him early on in the year to have to kind of deal with the pressure and stress of that. You don't want to be the guy early in the year that gets Vic on the map, on like the Bleacher Report map. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I think it's just fun when Arizona has a rivalry with the Texas team in general, and I think the league is always better that way. Like we've always had beef with at least one of them, or like the Lakers, obviously. But I just think when it's a different, like we're kind of the same state a little bit, so I think it's like a lot of the same fans, and I love it when it's like a San Antonio and Phoenix rivalry or a Dallas and Phoenix rivalry. Like it just matches perfect. And I just think the league is better when we have both of those. So they're young and they're going to be up and coming now because they're figuring stuff out and they have the pieces. So I can see it being a pretty fun rivalry later, even though our dudes are older.
That's true. But I'm excited to see who becomes the hated Spur. I don't even know if I quite have a guess yet. Those guys haven't mix it up with anybody enough to be that way. It feels like Jeremy Sohan is the early front runner though. Speaking of rivalries, the Suns do play the Mavs again. I think that was their opponent during the constructed and very kind of fake rivalry week that the NBA is trying to put together. And that's Phoenix's opponent there. I continue to maintain that it's not really a huge rivalry, but I do think the Book Lucas stuff is enough to tune in. And then obviously Kyrie versus KD. But as far as stretches of games go, they're doing a lot of this kind of clustered stuff again, where you play the same opponent in the same city twice or back to back in a home and home type of thing if it's a city nearby. So that will be nice. I like that. But the Suns have a long homestand at the end of December into early January, at the beginning of December, and then basically the December 1st through the 17th, they're home that entire time. There is a stretch of the in-season tournament there. And then their longest road trip happens, I believe, in March, when they have 5 straight games from late March into early April that are all on the road. And to me, Aaron, that's like the March and April is the part that my attention went to, because there's 2 games against the Nuggets, multiple games against the Clippers. It feels like if the standings are tight, almost all those games are going to be very, very important and pretty big in terms of just national TV and attention and all that stuff.
Yeah, like a quick thing to your Dallas thing. Yeah, I don't think it's a rivalry. I think it's a rivalry with Luka, and I think it's just enough to push it over. But yeah, I don't really, like I said like a couple of weeks ago, like we can't get the Game 7 back because their whole team is different, ours is different, so it's not really a rivalry anymore. And with the stretches, I just saw like a Warriors fan post like, what do you think the Warriors record is going to be first 15 games or whatever? Like they were talking about a stretch. And I think we probably have the most clueless part in like a first 15 game stretch. Like we don't know this team. Like we could be like 2-13, like we can be 13-2. Like it really does. Like I'm like that's not gonna happen. But I just mean like we know so little. Like we don't even know who's gonna be the main ball handler of this team. So like I think that we have like the most clueless. We're gonna be learning on the fly with this team like the first couple of games. So I think we can't really gauge like what our record would be like 15. Like other teams, they know they have Steph. They know they have, well, maybe you're gonna have LeBron at the start of the season or AD and like stuff like that. We don't know who's going to have the ball. We don't know rotations. Like, we don't know any of this. So I think stretch-wise, we don't know what we're about to – like, we're going to be learning with everybody else. So I think those March and April games are going to be important because we're going to have that stuff figured out by then. Like, we're going to have to, like, know a lot on who's our guards, who's the rotation. Like, is Book playing the entire first again? Is he doing all that stuff? And is Beal getting the entire second? Like, are we doing stuff like that? Like, that's the stuff we're going to have to figure out when we start playing these really good teams when we're figuring out playoff seeding. So that March, April stretch is going to be really important.
Yeah, no, all great points. Because I've had I kind of talked about it on the show too, of like, there's a version where this team clicks right away, and I think they hit their over if you're talking about betting or you're just whatever. They're a really dominant regular season team, but I think there is a version where it does take a bit, and maybe they're in like the high 40s in wins just because of that. So I think the Spurs thing is fun, but it's also nice to play the Spurs twice early on and the Jazz, and you have the Pistons, Bulls, Thunder. I mean, that could be easy or hard depending on how things shake out. But also just the fact that you look at January and March specifically, those are months when the Suns have at least 3 back-to-backs in each month and a bunch of times where it's 3 and 5 nights, 4 and 6 nights, whatever. To have those at the end of the year, we don't know what injuries will look like, so that's the downside if you are dealing with health, that it's coming right when the schedule tightens up. But I would take it to have the schedule be a little bit lighter at the beginning just because of what you said of how this team is probably going to need to figure some things out. You wouldn't want to have your toughest stretch be right away, which some teams have to have it that way.
Yeah, I would like us to click early because I do think there's going to be some low, like KD loves hooping. We know that he's hooping right now, probably as we speak, but we're going to have to do some load managing with him and he's going to have to sit a little bit. And I think Vogel knows that, but we're also going to have this team click. It's like, luckily we've already had him here. So he kind of knows that, but he's learning from a new coach now. Like all of this stuff is new. So like, yes, stuff has to click early, but we also are going to have to rest KD as much as we can for the final stretch at the end of the season. So I can see him resting early if we do figure out like the stuff that I was talking about earlier. If we can figure that out fast, then KD can get the rest that he needs. If not, he's going to have to grind it out for a little bit and maybe start resting like January, February before that big stretch comes. But KD's going to have to rest. We all know this. It's been every year so far that something crazy has happened. So I'd rather us figure this stuff out early and then KD can kind of dial it back a little bit because he is older. And so, like, yeah, I'd rather him just kind of learn this stuff fast. That way we can start giving him the rest he's going to need sooner or later.
Chris Paul returning November 22nd, it looks like, if he plays in that game. And then Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson on December 13th will be their first return to the Valley. So some of those will be obviously once the circle as well. But let's talk about the national TV schedule, how the Suns compare to other teams in that sort of storyline, which I've been tracking, as well as strength of schedule and just sort of really getting our arms around what this season might look like for the team. We'll do that after a quick word from FanDuel. Football season is kicking off soon, and FanDuel has you covered with what I think is their best offer ever. They're giving you a chance to win all season long. When you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets back each time that they tally up a win in the regular season. So you want to pick a team with good value for the Super Bowl, but not necessarily a favorite, although everybody's plus odds this time of year. And you get points, you get money, not points, you get money when they win during the regular season. So pick a team that's going to pile up wins, that has a good shot, and you will profit. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, get bonus bets for every victory. Use those bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Start earning those bonus bets with that offer at America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Keeping it rolling, let's talk about strength of schedule. So the Suns are 9th in the NBA in strength of schedule this season. The Nuggets, 9th lowest. The average last year's record of their opponents this year is right about 500. So really you're only talking about a span between 48% win percentage last season for the Nuggets schedule and a 53% win percentage last year for the Spurs schedule. So it's not as if anybody's like a huge outlier on either end, but the Suns are on the right side of this. They obviously don't have to play themselves, so that helps. But that, I think, has to make you feel good, combined with the pretty nice early stretch, Aaron. I don't think we've talked about this, but it's a good time to check in on it because, again, the Nuggets have the easiest schedule, but not a lot of Western Conference teams round out the rest of the top 10. Only Utah is the other West team in the top 10 of easiest schedules. Where do you expect the Suns to be in the standings?
Oh, I thought we were going to get to that part later.
I mean, we'll do it right now because the other part of this is national TV, which doesn't really, that's all narrative crap. So just give it to me.
Yeah, I think with notwithstanding the KD rest stuff that I want to happen, and we're going to get to the DA stuff later, I think we can still be in that 3rd or 4th spot, depending on how fast they pick up everything and the rotations and who's going to be playing and all that stuff. I can see us being 3rd or 4th. There's going to be a stretch where we look like the best team in the league. I really believe that. I think there's going to be one where a couple games where they figure it out and maybe they fall back a little bit, but I can see us ripping off 9 or 10 in a row or 11. And people be like, all right, this was always going to happen. So yeah, I can see us just building off of something like that. Just starting off hot or getting hot in the middle of the season, us still ending up at the 3rd or 4th spot.
So the Warriors, Lakers, and Kings have 3 of the 6 hardest strength of schedules. Again, not a huge gap. Not like this is going to decide everything in the league this year, but that's worth noting. I had it. Brendon and I went through it on Monday, and I think he had the over/under for seeding at 2.5. So it was basically are they going to be right behind what most people would guess would be Denver at number 1 or below that? And I said that they'll be the 2nd seed, and mostly is just because I don't see another team to do it. I think a lot of teams will be in a similar kind of health situation as the Suns. So you might point to a team that has, okay, well, they're young, they're this and that, but that usually has been the Grizzlies the past few years, or even the Jazz, but both Jazz don't exist anymore like they were, and the Grizzlies aren't going to have Ja. So you're looking at the Lakers, the Clippers, the Warriors. All those teams are pretty similar in that boat. So I think the Suns will be the 2 seed. Today's schedule stuff makes me feel even better about that. I do think a team like the Kings or even the Pelicans could be one, exception to really push Phoenix. But I think that they could have a pretty up and down regular season and still get there personally. What about win streak? Oh, no, go ahead.
I mean, I hate to say it. I think the Lakers are going to be good. I think Austin Reeves is actually a hooper, and I can see him like really carrying a lot of the weight that they might like need him to. I really think he's up for the job, honestly.
Yeah.
So I can see them being pretty decent, and they already kind of know each other. You got LeBron at the end of the day, and you got AD, and that's just a good spot to start with Austin Reeves running with them now. So yeah, I can see them probably being at like a 3 or 2 spot too, depending on LeBron's going to load manage a lot this year, I think. So like, it's another one of those things that you got to have like your team like be able to play together, but you got to get LeBron his rest too. So it depends on how they're going to end up doing that.
From a regular season standpoint, I think keeping Russell actually was pretty big for them because obviously, all of us have questions about if D'Lo's like a great playoff player, but in the regular season, if they had not been able to keep him, if another team had given him a good offer, or if they had traded him for a pick or something like that, this team is really just not that deep. So they only have like 8 guys that you really trust. And even Jared Vanderbilt's kind of a question mark. Jackson Hayes might like start for them, and so they're really betting on like Max Christie or like Cam Reddish to step up in order for them to have a lot of depth. So that's
Cam
a question.
Has to work for somebody sooner or later.
Coach K couldn't do it. I'm not exactly sure if Darvin Ham is necessarily going to be able to, but then again, LeBron has pulled rabbits out of his hat before and turned guys into something. So we'll see. But yeah, I think I think the Suns have they could even get the 1 seed. It's not like the Nuggets are some sort of just juggernaut. Last year in the regular season, they were like good, but not great. So we'll see there too.
And they have the best player in the league. So I think you give yourself like that much space. Malone might be like, who cares? Like, we got Jokic. We'll take the 3rd seed. Like, we don't care. You still have to play Jokic. Like, and his game travels literally anywhere. So, and championship teams, they get smart like that. It was after a while where LeBron didn't care about getting the 1 seed. He was just like, let's just get to the playoffs and we'll figure it out later. And I think when you have the best player in the league, you can do stuff like that. So I can see them kind of doing it and being like, Phoenix, you can have the 1. You can have the 2. Just see us in the playoffs. We'll see you in the Western Conference Finals kind of thing. And that would be smart for them too.
Yeah, and you see Jamal Murray not playing in the World Cup, so that's kind of already an indication they're not. And same with Jokic, although that came out even longer ago. So, that patience is already kind of showing up. So we'll see. I think real quick, winning streak. We talked about this too. I mean, we don't have to go. It's awful content to go through the actual schedule and be like win, win, win. But whether that changed your opinion or not, we had it at 9.5. Do you feel like they bust off a double-digit win streak this season?
I can see it happening. Like, I think it like Book can get hot at any moment, and there's going to be one game or a couple, like I said, a couple of stretches where it clicks for all 3 of them. I remember those Warriors team when it was Steph and KD and Clay, and the games were like, because every once in a while it'd be like, oh man, Clay went like 2 for 7, but KD and Steph went off, and then it would be like the other way around. But the games when like all 3 clicked at the same time was just special. And I can see us just having a couple of those where it just clicks for all 3, and maybe even Ayton just goes off and has like an 18 rebound game or something. Like, I just can, like, it's so many pieces and moving parts that we have now. I can see sometimes it just clicking and us just kind of just going on a run.
Yeah, we had it as like, I mean, it's exactly the kind of point in the year when the Suns made their 18-game win streak a couple seasons ago, but like December to February, once they've had some time and, now seeing the schedule, I see a stretch from like mid-December after the in-season tournament break. They have a back-to-back with the Warriors and the Nets, but after that, it's like the only real tough game is Dallas on Christmas. But other than that, it's the Wizards, the Blazers, the Kings, the Rockets, Hornets, Magic, Blazers, like something like that feels pretty ripe. And a lot of those
Rockets going to be fun though.
Well, they beat the Suns twice last year, so I guess shouldn't count the chickens before they hatch. But real quick on the national TV side of things. So this list includes NBA TV, which to me is fake because I actually think less people can watch those than most games. So whatever. Yeah. But 37 for the Suns and then 40 for the Lakers, 41 for the Warriors. I got to admit, that's closer than I was expecting, even though I did make the case last week that I expected we would see the Suns start to catch up for that late night slot that always kind of has to be filled by a West Coast team. Obviously, Suns fans who do go to games know that that means 8 o'clock tips for us a lot of the year, which is really brutal. But I do also feel like the Blazers being bad and the Clippers having some uncertainty also helped the Suns, not just Phoenix getting better. But what did you make of that? Because I had this whole segment last week where I'm like, the Suns are going to be the biggest story in the NBA this season. I was maybe getting ahead of myself because the Lakers and Warriors are always going to kind of have that built in for them. But I think this kind of makes me feel like we actually might be headed toward at least close to the coverage of those two teams.
Yeah, I think once we signed, like once we got Vogel and once the Beal thing happened, I figured we would be pretty much up there. I honestly thought we'd be second. I didn't think they're the Lakers, but still, like, I thought with the LeBron foot thing and them not knowing if he'd be there in probably like the first month or so, like he's still been pretty tight-lipped about this entire thing. So I think him probably being tight-lipped about it gave them those games anyway, and they're also being the Lakers. But yeah, like I figured we'd be up there to the point where we'd be close to the Lakers at least. And Warriors, like Steph is the most watched player most of the time, and every rating usually has him as the highest game that people watch. So yeah, the Warriors are probably going to always be up there as long as Steph is there. But yeah, like it just made sense that it would be us. I'm sure Dallas and Luka and Kyrie are probably up pretty high too, even though we don't know if they're going to be good or not.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I agree on all counts. I feel like it has to be sustained, but at the very least, like this team will be talked about. This team will be whatever happens, daily news, drama, games, everything. And
it's going to be a bunch of the first take clips about it. It's going to be weird.
Exactly. And I mean, I guess I didn't say this enough at the beginning, so I'll just wrap up the schedule stuff with this. I am super excited about the game against the Warriors on opening night. KD has not played in San Francisco in front of an actual crowd since he left, and obviously the Chris Paul element of it. And it's those teams always get up for each other. Like I know the Clay Book thing got a lot of attention, but that game was those games have been scrappy separate from that, you know. And Draymond and KD, Draymond and Book, Draymond and anybody, you know. I think those every time those teams play will be fun, but especially with the extra stakes of opening night and KD stuff, that one I'm really really pumped for. I kind of wish it was here, but obviously you do want it there for the KD side of it.
Yeah, I'm excited for KD and LeBron. Like it hasn't happened in forever, and if it actually happens, like it seems like something happens every time. We almost got
they played the Nuggets on opening night, so watch him play that one and rest the second one or something.
Yeah, so like we'll see if it actually happens, but anytime those two are on the floor, you know KD is always up for it. Like you can tell every single time. And LeBron knows KD's going to come after him, so he's up for it. So I think like that's just going to be fun.
All right, let's close out with some additional thoughts on Deandre Ayton, who continues to play these Olympic qualifiers. I think a lot of people expected the Argentina game would just be a big L for the Bahamas. They came back from double digits down. DA had another double-double, had a viral clip of himself in the huddle talking guys up. New man, Deandre Ayton. We'll talk about, as it continues to build, what it might mean for the Suns, for his career, all of that good stuff after one more quick break. All right, closing out the show, closing out the week. Aaron, I posted when I went to see your show last night that you made me laugh about something besides Deandre Ayton. So it's perfect timing to talk about Deandre Ayton. But I don't know if I'm like joking here when I feel.
Oh, is he back?
No.
You sound like you're back.
See, but I was never as gone as you were, so I don't know if I have to be. I don't know if I have to be pulled back. But no, I mean, I think basketball wise, it's always going to be a question. But we know that the main thing that's fluctuated, guys don't lose skill, like they don't lose whatever, they lose confidence, and so I feel like this indicates to me more than anything else just continuing to build confidence. And there's plenty of dudes overseas who look like different people, right? I mean, Kristaps Porzingis, he's not playing in this World Cup. I like any of the Spanish and Argentinian guys or have always been better for their national teams, just playing with people they're familiar with and all that. I wouldn't say that's really happening with DA because I don't think he's ever played with these guys before. But there's a history of that. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but I just watch him personality wise. He's chirping at the crowd. He's doing the riling up of his guys, pumping up his teammates in the huddle and just playing with emotion that we really haven't seen a lot from him, at least the past 2 seasons. So that's what I feel like is real. I mean, there's no way around that. Like anybody who's ever done anything knows the difference between how Ayton looked at the end of this past season and how he looks right now. And I mean, whether you think it's going to continue or not, it obviously looks and feels very different.
Yeah, and a lot of people laughed when he said he's trying to change the narrative and he sees everything that people talk about. And it would be like crazy to see him do this now and not take it seriously. Like he's pretty much doing he's attacking everything that we attack about him. He had like 5 dunks in the first game. Like he's attacking people. He's being vocal. Like he's getting hype. Like he seems like he cares. And that's always been like our main thing, just to care and attack and like be the athlete that we think you are. And yeah, like if like he said the words and it looks like he's really trying to live up to the words that he said because he's doing exactly what we wanted him to do all along. And yes, like he's done that other seasons where he'll just go on a tear and we'll be like, wow, Ayton had 20 and 20. That's crazy. And then he'll just kind of fall apart like a couple games later. But like it really does seem like a new energy for him. But we'll see once there's like bigger cooks in the kitchen and there's a lot more voices going, and because he's the only dude that's been in the finals on that team. Like he's technically the star on that team and like he's the guy. Like he's gonna not be the guy, but he can still be vocal and do all that stuff. So I want to see if it transfers once he gets back to playing with Hall of Famers and a new coach and stuff like that. Like if he can manage to do that too, then yeah, he's a new dude.
Yeah, I mean, he also had 3 blocks and 2 steals in the Argentina game.
The blocks thing is bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. It's just also the consistency of it. The fact that it's 2 very similar games. Again, it's only 2. But to your point about the interview that he gave about wanting to kind of not be so hated, basically, it's not a coincidence to me that he said that to Bahamas media. And he's doing this for his national team. And like, as much as you could look at it and say the thing I just said of guys have looked very much better on their national teams than they do in the NBA, and that's understandable for a bunch of different reasons. You could also look at it and understandably getting that opportunity could invigorate you in a different type of way than just another training camp in the NBA would, Like I know I talked about this with Brandon a little bit too of like it's hard not to go back and forth on everybody on this team because it's a daily podcast, but I think the only real thing that I feel like can return to him that has gone missing is the confidence side of it, and that it's totally reasonable to think that could come back with an opportunity and an experience like this. I mean, what else would it? I mean, all of us would feel a lot more purpose and meaning and excitement around getting this type of opportunity. I mean, they're trying to qualify for the Olympics. Like that's not some insignificant little tournament that he's participating in,
Yeah, I think this being like the first time he's played for this team, like, and in this type of environment, plus like he's on an NBA team that has high aspirations now. Like, yeah, we had him like the year that we lost to Dallas and stuff, but this is the most talented team he's ever played on. He is legit the 4th option on it, and he still is going to have to bring it every night because I think this team still goes as far as he goes. Like, if he's out there like being old Ayton, then I think it's just going to be a struggle for him. But if he can bring that type of energy to like a team that has the aspirations that this one has, like even more than the other teams he's played for, like he's on a team with like stars and they're going to run and they're doing all the stuff that he's probably wanted to do, like running, not having to do pick and rolls all day, not just being yelled at by his point guard, the head coach. Like this is set up for him finally. Like he has no out now. He has no excuse. This is set up for him to like really go off. And it's really nice that he has this opportunity for the national team because it can be like a perfect way to catapult him to like the team that he's about to go to for the NBA.
I think that's a perfect way to put it. It's like this is a situation in an environment where he is featured. He is playing with other NBA players, even though it's only Buddy Hield and Eric Gordon, and there's a lot on the line. You would expect him to play well, and he is. Like,
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens beyond that, but the opposite could have very well happened, and we would have felt even worse. So we'll see. Eric Gordon, I just want to give him a salute. He's bringing Maury ball to the Caribbean, I feel like. 10 I was looking at it wrong. I thought he had 10 3-point attempts and 12 free throw attempts. I had it wrong. He had only 2 threes. And then he had that amazing dunk that went viral.
Yeah. 2 threes is crazy, though.
Yeah, that's why I assumed it, because Buddy Hield had 10 threes. So I'm like, okay, they're just jacking threes. The other guys are, running pick and rolls or whatever they're doing, and Ayton's dominating inside. But no, I guess EG was throwing it back a little bit. I don't have a lot of takes on the Eric Gordon side because I think this is just pretty normal for him. He's a vet and he should be kind of putting up production, but this guy's not exactly young. So I'm just optimistic that he still looks athletic, physically ready to play, good, still productive, all that stuff. Because honestly, the Clippers series didn't end great for him. So I'm just glad he's back on track.
Yeah, I mean, they were asking him a lot toward the end of that Clippers series. So, like, that was kind of just on their injuries. Like, yes, Eric Gordon's out there because they need him to jack up shots. And he did, but they weren't falling sooner or later. But I don't blame the Clippers series on him. Like, it was just a tough opportunity. Like, he's going to get probably 5 threes a game for the Suns, 4.5, 5. And that's just, like, kind of where you want it. Get to the rim, run the offense a little bit. You'll probably be out there with Beal. Like, we're not going to be asking him to do that much stuff.
You mentioned Houston in the last segment, and I just the number one great part of the whole EG saga since he left the Rockets is that the Clippers traded the pick that ended up becoming Cam Whitmore for him, which if Whitmore even makes good on half the potential that people think he has as like a guy that could have gone in the top 5 and looked really good in Summer League, it's just going to be like an all-timer for such an insignificant trade at the deadline to have that become Cam Whitmore. If he's even like a starter, let alone like better than that, it's going to be a hilarious one to look back on. And they didn't even get to keep him because they had to cut him for money reasons, and he ends up in Phoenix on a minimum. So I just love everything about that. I don't really know why I have beef against the Clippers. I think it's just playing them a couple times and having to watch that series play out and them kind of getting on my nerves in different ways. Their fans are weird and annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So their fans just have like a little brother syndrome that they just have to like overdo everything. So I think that's what gets on my nerves a little bit. But anyway, Cam Whitmore, hope he's an NBA All-Star, and that can just kind of be tied up with a nice little bow. But that will wrap us up. That will tie a bow on the show for the week. We'll see what happens next week. I don't exactly know where we're headed, but we will have Michael Schwartz on next Wednesday. You know him from ESPN. He's on the Zach Lowe podcast, often talking Suns. Been trying to get him for, I literally think, 2 years. So we're finally scheduled to chat Suns. And then Aaron will be back. Brandon will be back. That'll be our week. Season preview coverage in the not too distant future. So hit follow or subscribe wherever you're finding this show. Just search Locked On Suns. Get it in your feed. Become an everydayer. I'll talk to you guys next week.